The fluorescent light above the bathroom mirror flickered erratically, casting a harsh glow on the cracked tiles and blood smeared across the porcelain sink. Zach leaned heavily against the cool surface, feeling the sting as Maya dabbed at the wound on his head with antiseptic soap gauze. Quick moving, Maya scolded softly. You can't go out looking like you just walked off a horror movie set. I'm fine. Zach's words were gruff, but he couldn't suppress the winch as she applied pressure to the cut. It's just a stretch, stubborn as a mule. She murmured. Her eyes met his in the mirror, filled with concern. You're not immortal, Zach. You wanted to shrug off her fussing, but every touch sent a joke of pain lancing through his skull, dressing up memories. He'd rather forget memories of chaos, gunfire, and the smell of burning flesh. His days in the army were like dolls or herb pages in a book, allowing him to immediately flip back to them and relive them, whether he wanted to or not. The antique bathroom clock ticked in the background, its rheumatic drone accentuating the silence that shrouded them. Zach's eyes were lost in the mirror, tracing the old scars that laced his skin, each a stark reminder of a battle fought and won. His steely-eyed reflection stared back at him, stern and unbending as he swallowed down the pain. Zach, Maya's voice was distant, yet insistent. He blinked, refocusing on the woman beside him. Sorry, he murmured, gripping the edge of the sink tighter, as if it could anchor him to the present. She couldn't know just how deep his scars ran. Few did. Does this happen often? Maya's tone was clinical now, but her hand hesitated over his wound. Does what happened? He avoided her gaze, fixing his stare on the stained towel and groped the flashbacks. She said the word delicately, as though it might shatter him further. Only when I let my guard down. The lie came easily, but the truth was that his nights were plagued with reliving the past, with sounds of combat ringing in his ears. By day, he armored himself with duty and resolve, but the cracks were showing. He knew it. Maya knew it. Zach, you need to take care of yourself, she said. You can't just patch up the physical wounds and ignore the rest. PTSD is, I know what it is. I don't need you or anyone else to tell me. He signs, letting out his frustration. Let's just focus on the mission, okay? We got work to do. Maya said nothing. She finished cleaning the wound and bandaged it in silence. As she began tidying up the medical supplies, Zach leaned against the cool porcelain of the sink, his fingers tracing the edge where it met the wall, of subconscious attempt to ground himself in the present. The sharp sting on the back of his head served as a bitter reminder of their failed mission. Are you absolutely certain Angela wasn't there? He asked, squinting to Maya's reflection in the mirror. Could we have missed something? I combed through every inch of the footage, she said, a note of reservation in her voice, hinting that she wasn't happy about the abrupt change in subject. There was no sign of her and Zach, the Black Serpent Brotherhood. Nothing they do aligns with this case. I don't see the connection. Zach winced, not from the physical pain, but from the frustration that growled at him. It felt like they were running out of time. Every instinct screamed at him that Angela's abduction was a pivoted piece in a puzzle far larger than they could see. Her notebook, he muttered, more to himself than to Maya. The answers got to be in her notes. His hand automatically reaching into his jacket pocket, feeling the warm edge of the small leather-bound book he had retrieved from Angela's home. The key to the deciphering its content lay in his ability to focus. But focus was a luxury his mind refused to afford him right now. Zach Maya interjected, her voice softening as she placed a steadying hand on the shoulder. You need to take care of yourself first. You're no good to Angela or anyone. If you are not well, you need to go back to D.C. and get some rest. That's an order, not a suggestion. Turning to look at her squarely, Zach saw the worry etching deep in the furrows of her brow. And you, he asked, are you going to be on bed rest too? I got debriefing with the higher-ups. They want a full account of what went down here. Besides, I'm not the one with the bleeding head. Okay, he conceded, his throat tightened with reluctance. We'll both head back, and you'll take it easy. He smiled. Of course, inwardly, though, he had no intentions of doing so, not while he was investigating a national crisis. Zach's forced fingers tight on the leather steering wheel as he guided his sedan along D.C.'s rain-slick streets. The city was a familiar maze, each turn etched into his memory like lines on a map. But today his destination was one he had kept hid, even from the sharpened eyes of the Maya Wash. The building he pulled up to was unremarkable, nestled between the dry cleaners and bakery whose sweet aromas battled the more clinical scents that seeped through Zach's roll-down window. He checked the reflection in the rearview mirror, noting the pallor in his skin and the tightness around his eyes that spoke of nights devoured of sleep and days riddled with silent battles. Can't let her know, he muttered to himself, shaking off the concerns Maya's voice carried even now when she was miles away. With a deep breath, he stepped out of the car and into the steady drizzle. Inside the doctor's office was a clean, quiet space. The walls were a soft eggshell, adorned with prints of landscape, promising tranquility. The receptionist was a young woman, her dark hair pulled back into a neat bun. Recognizing him, she greeted him with a soft, "Good morning, Zach." Her voice was gentle, as if she were afraid louder sound might startle him. "Morning, Lisa," he said with a nod. She gestured towards the waiting area, where a single patient was already seated. Out of habit, Zach chose a chair in the corner, where his back would be against the wall and he could see the entrance clearly. Sitting down, he tried to focus on the calming landscape print, but found his hand gravitate back to his pocket, gravitating back to his pocket and the worn edge of Angela's notebook. It seems only a few moments before the door opened and Dr. Lynn stood there, smiling at him, her eyes immediately clicking with concern. "You look like shit," she murmured to him as he left the waiting room and followed her to one of the patient's room. "Thanks, Doc," Zach replied with a grunt, settling onto the edge of the examination table with a stiffness belying his usual agility. Dr. Lynn studied the back of Zach's head. "What happened here? Got jumped by someone. It's already being patched up." Dr. Lynn pressed her lips together in an expression of disapproval. "Listen, Doc," he said, "all I need is a refill. All that bedside manner stuff is not for me. Okay, and I have enough people worrying about me already. Zach, we have talked about this," Dr. Lynn said, her eyes scanning before the door opened and Dr. Lynn stood there, smiling at him. Her eyes immediately crinkled with concern. "You look like shit," she murmured to him as he left the waiting room and followed her to one of the patient's rooms. "Thanks, Doc," Zach replied with a grunt, settling onto the edge of the examination table with a stiffness belying the unusual agility. Dr. Lynn studied the back of his head and said, "What happened?" "Listen, Doc," he said, "all I need is a refill. All that bedside manner stuff is okay. I have enough people worried about me already." My bad. If you're trying to decipher the secret he fought to keep locked away, your condition is worse. You can't keep doing this to yourself. "Doing my job, you mean?" Zach asked, jaw set, his hands resting on his thighs, clenched unconsciously. "Your job is killing you. Your job is killing you." Dr. Lynn's voice softened. "You need more than medication. You need stability, rest. Rest don't stop terrorists," Zach answered, the words leaving his lips like bullets. Rest won't find a missing psychiatrist. Neither will you if you keep pushing yourself like this. Zach remained silent, his gaze piercing through Dr. Glenn as he digested her warning. He knew she was right, but the thought of squirking responsibility scared him more than his worsening health. Okay, he murmured, breaking the silence of appease the doctor. Okay, just give me something to deal with the pain, okay? Doctor then studied him for a moment longer before sighing heavily and turning towards her desk. She pulled out a prescription pad and began writing. 2 weeks, she finally said, handing him the scribble sheet. If your condition doesn't improve in 2 weeks, you will have to promise me you'll consider taking medical leave. Zach took the prescription, his finger and brushing it against the doctor's as he did. There was a subtle tremor in his grasp, invisible to the untrained eye, but a sign of weakness he couldn't deny. He swallowed hard, nodded. 2 weeks, he echoed. The cool air nipped at Zach's skin as he stepped into the sidewalk. The numbness of his mind contrasted sharply with the sting on the back of his head. A dull throb pulsed beneath the bandage, a constant reminder of his recent encounter with danger, and a reminder that Angela was still missing, her fate uncertain. He rolled his shoulders, trying to dispel the tension and the all too familiar itch for action. His hand was reaching for the car door. His next stop was the pharmacy when a shrill ring of his phone sliced through the relative silence of the sheet. Zach glanced at the string, directed Elizabeth Murdoch Liz. He pressed the phone against his ear, steeling himself. Voice he answered, voice clipped. Zach. His tone was businesslike, but carried an undercurrent of concern. The FBI made a move on the Black Serpent Brotherhood. They raided a mansion you infiltrated. Good, Zach replied tersely. Did they find anything? No signs of Angela, but they did manage to capture one of the gang members. He might know something about her, assuming she was ever there at all, Zach thought. Listen, I heard about your injury, Liz continued, her words slowing as if it emphasized her concern. You're not invisible, you know. Strategy. Come with the territory, Zach said, as he started the car. I'm fine. Be that as it may, Zach, if you're not more careful, I have no choice but to take you off this case. Liz warned the ring with authority, each word a hammer, driving home the severity of her statement. Can't do that, Zach countered, his jaw setting. You need me, damn it, Zach. I don't want something happening to you. Her voice softened, a rare moment of vulnerability from the heart indirectly. Something always happens, Zach said as he pulled out of the parking lot. It's the job. Your father wouldn't want this for you, Liz murmured, invoking a name that never failed to tighten Zach's chest. Respectfully directed. My father taught me to finish what I started. The words were sheer, reflecting the ghosts of the past, present, and it is out there somewhere. I found it. We stopped another tag. That's what matters. Liz was silent for a beat, and Zach knew she was weighing her next words carefully. Finally, she spoke again, her tone resolute. All right, but watch your six, Zach. I won't lose another force on my watch. Understood? As I said, though he had no intention of stepping back, not when answers were within reach, not when duty called with such ferocity. Anything else? Stay sharp. Stay sharp. We'll talk soon. We'll dare. The line went dead. Why does everyone think I need to be cuddled? He thought. Don't they understand what's at stake here? The city blurred past Zach's window, a monstrum of gray and steel that held no interest for him. As he maneuvered his car through the traffic, he realized he needed a fresh perspective on the case, the voice of reason, who could help him figure out where to turn next. While waiting in the red light, he reached for the phone on the passenger seat, fingers tapping the screen to life. The contact list rolled under his thumb until it stopped when the name that was both a lifeline from the past and the key to unlocking the future. Kind of Robert Graves. The voice cracked over the line, stuttered and unyielding as the man himself. Rob, exact. There was no need for a pleasantry. The bond cut through formalities like a knife through the butter. Force to what do our older on. Need your insights, they said, navigating around the pothole. In the case, it's complicated. Complicated my middle name. How about we discuss this over coffee? Works for me, Zach agreed. Relieved, threading through his voice. Java Joe's 30 minutes. See you there. As he entered the car, Zach's eyes caught his reflection in the rearview mirror. A pale face, drawn tight with determination and shadowed by the memories that stalked him relentlessly. He shook his head silent, vanishing unwelcome. Ghost back into the recesses of his mind. Java Joe's was an old hut, a place steeped in the aroma of roasted beans and a murmur of quiet conversations. As they entered, the bell above the door announced his arrival with a cheerful jingle. James was already seated in the far corner, a steaming mug, cup in his large hands. Zach Graves stood, clasping Zach's hand in a firm shake that spoke volumes of their shared history. Rob Zach slid into the booth, the warm vinyl creaking under his weight. Black coffee. Graves gestured at the waitress, who hovered nearby. Make it two, Zach replied. Zach, you look like hell, Graves said bluntly. I heard about the plant sabotage, the missing psychiatrist. I didn't realize what a toll it was taking on you, though. Occupational hazard, Zach quipped, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Your father wouldn't want this for you, and the PTSD is under control, Zach interjected. His jaw tight. He wasn't here to have his resolve questioned, not managed. Because managing is what forces do, right? Gray's voice was soft, and now concern etched into the lines of his weathered face. Right, Zach's gaze drifted to the window where the world moved on, obviously to the dangers lurking within it. The waitress arrived with the coffee. Zach took his and wrapped his hand around the warm ceramic. The surface as gritty and worn as the man sitting across from him. The diner hum with the low murmur of Patron and the click of silverware on plates, a symphony of normalcy that seemed to so out of place to him now. His thumb rubbed to chip on the rim, a flawed guarding against the heat, much like he guarded secrets against the daylight. Boom. So Gray said, where do things stand with the investigation? They stand still, as I said, which is the problem. I think the Patriots attack was an inside job, and I can't prove it. We found a device that appears to have been used by the sabotagers, but we haven't been able to trace its origins. And Mrs. Horowitz, he shook his head, his lips pressed together in a thin line. She's vanished like a puff of smoke in the wind. Gray studied him thoughtfully. Well, a problem can't be solved if you only think in one direction, Gray said, taking a slow sip of his coffee. He set the cup down and looked at Zach with keen eyes that had seen more than their fair share of crime scenes. You need to widen the net, consider possibilities that seem far-fetched or even impossible. Zach listened, his sharp gaze never leaving Graves. The device, Graves continued briefly, flickering his attention to the ceramic mug between his hands. That seems like your best lead. You said you had it thoroughly analyzed. Yes. He paused, thinking, was it possible Angela had something to do with the device? She had visited Montrose after all. What if she hadn't actually been kidnapped, but instead the scene at her house had been staged? What if she was actually working with the people who had triggered the meltdown? Just then, Zach's phone vibrated in his pocket, a sudden intrusion that made his pulse jump. He finished it out. glancing at the caller ID. Maya excusing himself with a tilt of his head. He rose and stepped away, pressing the phone to his ear. Maya, tell me you have good news. Zach, it's about the brotherhood member we nabbed, she said, her voice edged with tension. What is it? Did you learn anything from him? No, he's dead. Zach committed suicide in the cell an hour ago. The words hit Zach like a physical blow. He must have known something he couldn't risk sharing. Remember, something so important, might add, that he needed to keep it from us at all costs, even the cost of his own life.